Magic the Gathering: How to Play. The object of the game is to eliminate your opponent by bringing their life to 0. Assemble a deck of at least 60 cards. You may not have more than 4 copies of any individual card, with the exception of basic lands, which you can have as many as you want. Also, some cards are banned and should not be used unless both players agree or the tournament allows. Each player shuffles their deck. Then they may shuffle or cut their opponent's deck if they desire, and set it face down on the table. Each player draws 7 cards from their own deck, which is called their library. Roll dice to determine who goes first. Each player starts with 20 life, which can be displayed and kept track on a 20-sided die. The top left of each card is the card's name, and to the right of that is its mana cost. Mana is the resource that is used to play cards and activate abilities. If the cost is a specific color, you must pay with that color. If the cost is gray with a number, you can use any combination of mana colors to pay for it. You gain colored mana by tapping land cards of that color. You can tap any card in play by turning it sideways. You may not tap a card that has already been tapped, and you must wait for it to be untapped before you can tap it again. When mana is used, it is removed from the mana pool and no longer available to use. Each player's unused mana pool empties at the end of each step and phase. You are only allowed to play 1 land card from your hand per turn. You may play any number of other cards on your turn so long as you can pay their mana costs. When you play a card, you look at its type line to determine how it is played. Land, creatures, artifacts, and enchantments play directly to the battlefield until they are removed. Sorceries and instants grant the effect in their text box, then are placed in the discard pile called the graveyard, which is located above your library. All types of cards, except lands, are spells while you are playing them. Once they are resolved, then they become their type. When you play a creature, this is called summoning. The creature may not attack or use a tap ability on the same turn it is summoned. This is called summoning sickness. Place the creature face up on the battlefield, oriented vertically, not sideways. There is no limit to the number of creatures you can have on the battlefield. During your turn, you have the ability to attack your opponent with your untapped creatures. To attack, tap your creatures you want to attack with. If an attack isn't blocked, the creature deals damage to your opponent's life equal to its power. A creature's power is indicated by the number on the left side of the slash in the lower right corner of the card. If your opponent has untapped creatures on the battlefield, they may tap any number of them to block your attacks. The defender then assigns its creatures to block the attacking creatures. Multiple creatures may block a single attacking creature. Once all blockers have been chosen and assigned, each creature, both attacking and blocking, simultaneously deals damage equal to its power. The attacker decides how to divide its combat damage among them. You must assign at least enough damage to the first blocking creature to destroy it before you can assign damage to the second one, and so on. If a creature is dealt damage equal to or greater than its toughness over the course of a single turn through combat, abilities, or spell cards, that creature is destroyed and it goes to its owner's graveyard. Toughness is indicated by the number to the right of the slash in the bottom right corner of the card. If a creature takes damage that isn't enough to destroy it in a single turn, that creature stays on the battlefield and the damage wears off at the end of the turn. Here are some examples of how combat can be played out. A 2/2 attacks and no creature blocks. The defending player loses 2 life. A 2/2 attacks and a 5/4 blocks. The attacking 2/2 is destroyed. No player loses life. A 1/3 attacks and a 2/2 blocks. Both creatures survive and no player loses life. A 4/4 attacks and a 2/2 defends. the defending 2/2 is destroyed, no player loses life. A 4/4 attacks, and a 2/1 and a 2/4 defend. The attacker chooses the order of damage to first go towards the 2/1, then to the 2/4. The 4/4 deals 1 damage to the 2/1 and destroys it. Then the 4/4 deals its 3 remaining damage to the 2/4, which survives. Simultaneously, the blocking 2/1 and the 2/4 deal a combined 4 damage to the attacking creature, destroying it. No player takes any damage. A 3/3, 2/2, and 2/1 attack. The defending 5/5 is already tapped and therefore cannot defend. The defender defends with 2 2/2s, choosing to block the 2/2 and 2/1, all of which get destroyed. The 3/3 deals 3 damage to the player, causing them to lose 3 life. After all the battles have been resolved, you end your combat phase. There are 5 phases in a turn: the beginning phase, first main phase, combat phase, second main phase, and ending phase. You may reference the On Your Turn card for a reminder of all the details of each phase. Here is a highlight of the most important steps. In the beginning phase, you first untap all your tapped cards. After this is complete, this is called your upkeep, and certain cards can trigger. Next, you must draw 1 card from your library, unless it is the very first turn of the game, in which case the first player does not draw. If you run out of cards in your library and need to draw but cannot, you lose the game. Next is your first main phase, the time when you can play cards and activate abilities. Your opponent can also cast instants and activate abilities. Then you enter combat, followed by your second main phase, which is just like the first main phase. Finally, you end your turn with the ending phase. You can trigger abilities and then you clean up. If you have more than 7 cards in your hand, choose and discard cards until you only have 7. Next, all the damage on all the creatures is removed, and all until end of turn effects end. No player can cast instants or activate abilities unless an ability triggers specifically during this step. Your turn is now over and your opponent goes. Play continues this way until there is a winner. There are a tremendous number of unique cards you can play with, which, in turn, provides an incredibly wide range of things that could happen in any given game. I can't cover everything in detail, but some important special rules to know are as follows. You may only have 1 legendary card of the same name on the battlefield at a time. If you control 2 legendaries with the same name, you must put 1 of them in your graveyard. Some spells and abilities use the word target to describe something that the spell or ability will affect. You must choose all targets when used. If you can't meet the targeting requirements, you can't cast the spell or use the ability. A target can be a creature, player, or planeswalker. Once you choose your targets, you cannot change your mind later. When the spell or ability resolves, it checks the targets to make sure they're still a legal target. If the target isn't legal, the spell or ability can't affect it. The stack is an imaginary gaming zone shared by all players where spells and abilities wait to resolve. When you cast a spell or activate an ability, it doesn't resolve right away, it goes on the stack. Spells and abilities remain on the stack until both players choose not to cast any new spells or activate any new abilities. Triggered abilities also go on the stack until they are resolved. A general rule is that spells and abilities on the stack resolve one by one, beginning with the last one put on the stack, following the last on, first out principle. Abilities are fire and forget, meaning even if the source is removed, the ability in the stack still resolves. For example, your opponent casts Sunlance, targeting your 4/3 creature. Sunlance goes on the stack. Your opponent doesn't have anything else to play at this time, So you respond to Sunlance by casting Swell of Courage. Swell of Courage goes on the stack on top of Sunlance. You and your opponent both decline to do anything else. Swell of Courage resolves first, making your 4/3 creature a 6/5 until the end of the turn. Then, Sunlance resolves and deals 3 damage to your 6/5 creature, which is not enough to destroy it. There are so many more rules and specific abilities and nuances to the game that I could never cover in one video. So, I encourage you to consult the comprehensive rules of Magic for specific rule clarification, or to look up your question online. This video should be enough to get you going. Check out the description for some useful links.